welcome back to my channel. So, today we're kind of going to dive into a little bit of everything. It's kind of going to be just a little, what I wish I knew before I started music therapy sessions, sort of. And I'm not really going to talk too much about money. It's probably going to get brought up, though, because that's all I think about is money. Anyway, yeah, so I'm up here. I'm in my little office, and I'm on the guest bed, which is technically a day bed. So it's like a couch / a bed. I don't like to sit on my bed. Anyway, yeah, so let's dive in here. I'm trying to think what to talk about first. Well, why don't we talk about, a session in general? So, like, a music therapy session, you guys all know the outline. You start with your hello song, and then you do activities. I'm just going to do, like, a general one, which is what I do. My ideal population is acquired brain injury. And when I say acquired brain injury, I mean, like, severe, like, moderate to severe acquired / traumatic, because it could be traumatic brain injury. I have yet to work with patients, like concussion patients, who are on the mild side of acquired brain injury. However, I am looking for lab research positions, and there are a couple in terms of concussion and sports medicine, which would be kind of cool, I think. Anyway, so when I worked with my population, my ideal population, they were older adults, like 45 to 65, and moderate to severe traumatic brain injury. So what I usually did in the session, right, so we would do our introduction, because they're adults, so we don't necessarily do a hello song. So you have an introduction song, and then we would do a movement type of song. Sometimes that would be like actual movements, like the Macarena. Other times it would be like playing instruments to a beat type of movement. It really depended on the group. Like, did they need gross motor movements like the Macarena with your arms, or did they need like fine motor movements like playing the piano or shaking a maraca? Then moving on, next one, usually we did something more cognitive, because it was acquired brain injury, so it would be songwriting or like name that tune. I know name that tune can be like an activity in and of itself, but a lot of times I would do like fill in the blank to the song, and it would be like so obvious. Like, it would be like, she wore and then, like, you know, itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow polka. Like, so it would be like something like simple where it was like a chorus and they had to fill in the blank. Name that tune. Whenever we did name that tune, I usually did like old Broadway or classical songs. And when I say classical songs, I mean like holiday classical songs with lyrics, not orchestral songs. That was oral skills. That's not appropriate for music therapy. But yeah, usually something more cognitive. Sometimes I would incorporate like a game. I know that's not, a lot of people don't like when you do games in a music therapy session, like like how old are, like, what Beatles are still alive, you know, what was the first TV show that they were on. A lot of people don't like when you do games in a music therapy session. So sometimes I would do games if, like, there was a song attached to it. Like on Jeopardy Labs, you can, like, program a song or a link, and it will bring you to, like, a YouTube page. So I would do a game if it was something like that, but I wouldn't do like a trivia type of game. That wouldn't really be appropriate. Moving on, the third song, because all of these so I only had an hour to do these activities, right? So then the third activity would be more of a relaxation, calmer song. So with acquired brain injury, they often need a lot of mental stimulation. So when you do a relaxation, often I walked the patients through it. Like I would play music and I would speak, or sometimes because it was by myself, I would often like play music pre-recorded and then talk, like read a script. And basic scripts worked for acquired brain injury. Like if you just printed out like walk on the beach, and you read it to them and you chose like, I don't know, appropriate like calm music, anything like water, anything like that, or a drone type of sound, it usually worked. You didn't really have to like put too much effort into that like portion of the task, but it does depend on the population, because like when I worked with complex medical and neurological deficits, and for them you needed to like cater the script, you needed to cater the music, you needed to like pull the session apart and write a whole relaxation session, because like reading from a pre-made script and using pre-recorded music for that population did not work. Like the whole thing went just over their heads and they didn't grasp like anything from it. Whereas acquired brain injury, for a relaxation portion, you could read a pre-recorded script, you could use pre-recorded music, and as long as there's like mental stimulation, as long as you painted a picture of the beach, as long as you described like the sand that they were walking on, like feel the breeze across your face, like you need to incorporate that type of things for that population in order for them to achieve something and accomplish the goal. Whereas if it's medically complex disorders, you might need to cater that, like pre-recorded and pre-made is not gonna work. So then after that, you did a closing song, or goodbye song. But goodbye, like we would do goodbye if like the session was at the end of the day, but a closing is a more appropriate term for adults. So that was my music therapy session. So intro, closing, and 3 activities. And as you notice, it got from more active to more passive. And passive music therapy is great if you have like a complex condition, or if it's anything like in the hospice or like realm, the medical. When I say medical, I mean anybody like over the age of like 60 who's like, geriatrics. But when it comes to like acquired brain injury and children, you have to kind of make the passive music therapy cognitively stimulating. I would not recommend doing like reading any type of script to kids. That would definitely not be appropriate. But you could always read. I remember we used to we had music play, like we would choose songs. So it was pre-recorded music, but we would choose what song to put with what story, and then we would read a story, and that was like mentally stimulating, but still passive music therapy. But that's like that's a general gist of it. The problems that I often ran into, honestly, were the intro and the closing. Like, first of all, I don't really like writing songs. That's not my ish. Like, and so I never like to write intro and closing songs. And then I think the other thing too that I didn't like about intro and closing songs is that when I worked with the creative arts staff, so like when music therapy was a part of the creative arts department, or when music therapy was a part of the nursing department, nobody understood why are you doing an intro song? Why are you doing a closing song? Like, I don't understand. I think it took, like, I had a supervisor, she was a recreation therapist, and I swear it took that girl 1.5 years to finally understand why I was doing a closing song. Like, 1.5 years. to finally grasp it. So, and that was just the closing song. She still had no idea why I was doing an intro song. So I think the best thing to do in that realm is to just be confident and cocky and like, this, no matter how stupid it is, like, this is the best intro song ever written. And like, and you're staring at me with your 5 heads, well, I'm having fun, like, you know. And I think that's the best way to go about it. But yeah, but I personally, I don't really like intro songs, but for therapeutic reasons, I mean, like, I'm a musician, okay? Like, I'm going to a concert, I'm expecting to hear music. But like, for a client, you know, if they're transitioning from work to music therapy, or they're transitioning from like a game to music therapy, they're definitely going to need some transition, you know? So it's much more therapeutic to the client than it is to the staff. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about was staff. So there were so many times, like, I would do a music therapy session and I'd have like these stupid staff members like staring at me. And some of these people were uneducated at, like, it was actually kind of interesting. Like, the uneducated folks that were like there as volunteers, they actually were more engaged and more like attuned to what I was doing and when I needed help than the people with all the letters after their names. Usually, like, you know, if there was a physical therapist or occupation therapist like in the room, they had no idea. Like, they weren't the center of attention, so they did not care what you were doing, and usually they didn't take you seriously if you asked them for help. Whereas the caretakers, like the CNAs, the personal care staff, the volunteers, they were all in it. Like, they were all in it, having fun, helping out when need be. It was interesting. You kind of knew, you could kind of tell, like, you know. And so that's another thing too. Don't let the staff intimidate you. Also too, like, the staff, I didn't realize this when I first started working, but like, sometimes, like, there was this one physical therapist, and she used to sit in on, like, she worked there for 20 years, and every Thursday she sat in on a music therapy session. So it was like every single Thursday for 20 years she sat in on a music therapy session. So at that point she really didn't care. And I didn't really put that into perspective. I always thought that she was just giving me looks because she didn't like me. But it was like, no, she just didn't like this portion of the day. Or sometimes even other therapists will consider your session their break, even though they're technically like in the room. That's also really annoying, because you're like, I'm killing myself over here, and you're on your phone. Why can't you give me some respect? But hey. That's why we get paid $30 an hour, okay? So that way stuff like that happens and we don't have to worry about it. So yeah, so that's kind of the general gist of it. And then I think most importantly, you want to be an asset to your company. You want to show that, like, you're doing something, you're helping the patients. A lot of times, so if you work in a medical, and schools too, this applies to, it's always good to have a chart. Like, if you're starting out and you're worried because we are reaching a very difficult financial time and positions are going to get cut, and I apologize, but as if I was in charge of a nonprofit, the therapy departments go. Like, I'm sorry, but you're not essential. So that being said, it's really important to make sure that you appear essential and you are an asset to the company. So in a time like this, I would recommend making a chart, however you need to do it, and writing down, like, patients, their successes, and like how music therapy has really helped them individually. And I know, like, we all do notes and stuff like that, and like, oh, so and so reached their goal and all that stuff, but like, no, like, this is serious. Like, you need to take it into consideration. And I'm gonna give you a little story to help you guys out. So I had a patient, and he was blind, and he did not like most activities. He hated board games, he hated art, Movement activities he liked, but he always needed assistance, and we didn't have the staff to assist everybody that needed assistance. So since he was a walker, like he didn't have a wheelchair or anything, he didn't necessarily get the assistance that he needed. So he didn't really like movement activities. But music was something that he really, really enjoyed. So this is a good example of a patient who didn't like any activity. And instead of stating that, oh, he doesn't like any activity, you can state that, like, oh, you know, he's limited in art. He's limited in games, his attention span, his cognitive skills, you know, I really wouldn't go into detail about how, like, oh, he can't really participate in that movement because we don't have the staff, because then they might end up hiring staff and not keeping you. So, but you could go into detail about how, you know, this particular patient, music is an outlet that actually reaches him. It reaches him cognitively. It reaches him socially. It reaches his communication skills. It reaches his motivation. And he strives in it. And then when you talk about striving in it, you could talk about some goals that he has. So in this particular person, he really enjoyed working. I don't know. I'm like, I hate working. But they all liked working. So you could talk about how music really motivated him to work. Like, it really motivated him to stay on task. It made him a good employee. It made him motivated to attend sessions. So if we have a client here and music is helping motivate them to be a good employee and to attend sessions, well, then you're bringing in revenue. So that alone, that client is actually making enough revenue to pay for a music therapist, right? Because they're working, so they're bringing in money, and then they're going to sessions. So that's also bringing the company in money. I say in quotes because this client is definitely not making enough to pay for my annual salary. But the point of the matter is that he is capable of bringing in income in 2 different avenues just by having one music therapy session. So that's kind of how you need to promote music therapy and advocate for yourself in order for the business individuals and the financial advisors and the board, in order for them to understand. Because, like, I feel like sometimes we're taught to write our, like, annual, weekly, monthly, 6-month reports a certain way, and this way doesn't necessarily get conveyed to the people who are actually keeping you on staff. So I challenge you guys to, like, actually think about a particular client who will bring in money to the company and where music can help 2 different avenues for this patient in order to make them a better asset to the community and to make you a significant asset. Because if you can block out, like, our place, it was 50 patients, right? And all 50 patients definitely needed music therapy. But if you could actually break down 30 of those 50 patients and explain, like, why music therapy helps them and, like, why doing music therapy would help bring the company money for 30 patients, then, like, you're golden. I mean, 10, 20, because, you know, you probably see about 10 to 20 in a week. So that's fair, you know? But if you can, like, advocate for yourself in that regard as a music therapist, then you should be fine. You should be golden. And if for some reason this specific company that you're working for does furlough you or does let you go because of the whole issue, well, now you have backup. Now you have, like, a significant client portfolio, I guess. And you could present that information when you go on your next job interview. So I hope that helps, and I really like feel for you guys out there. I feel like it is my duty to kind of explain, talk about music therapy, talk about my experience, but really, really make you guys stand out as a profession and make you guys stronger, because now as I take my business classes, I'm starting to see what businesses take into consideration when cutting a program. So with that knowledge, I want to advocate that to you, so that way music therapy doesn't get cut and music therapy can continue to strive and help clients everywhere. Okay, have a great day, everyone. Talk to you later. Bye.